Alright, so here we are with our flipbook. We've got it all sized up the way it needs to be, and I've even got some pauses at the end. I've got a pause at the beginning, and so it should play all the way through. Everything should be all the action should be happening within my stage. Anything outside of the stage, again, doesn't really matter because it's not going to show up. What's not on the stage can't be seen by the viewers, right? So now let's get on to creating some new layers. We're going to start with hitting this button right here, the little plus sign in your timeline. You hit new layer. I'm going to call this one line art. Oh, it says, oh, you can't have a space. I'm going to say okay, and it just puts a little line under there, and there we go. Now, let's break this down into a few bits here. Since I've got a character, I've got some other things happening with the background, what I want to start to do is divide my project into different parts. And you can decide whether or not you need these different parts, because every animation is going to be different, going to have different backgrounds, different kind of characters, different things happening. And so what I like to do is divide this up into sections. Makes it easy to organize, makes it easy to understand what layer is what. Always label your layers. That's very important. I know I'm going to need a character layer, so or an animation layer. Basically, anything that's shown here with the character. I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call this character. There we go. Got the character there, and I've got line art underneath it. What I want to do is put this line art inside of that character. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm dragging it up. And when I see that little line go right underneath it, I'm going to let go. So now I can collapse my character folder, and I'm going to start off with line art. And let's go ahead and begin with creating another layer, and I'm going to call this one title. And I'm going to put this in a new section. Actually, I'm going to leave it right where it is, and I'm going to drag my character above my title. So I'm going to click on it and drag it above and let go. So I'm going to keep the title kind of in its own thing. I'm going to create a group for the title. I'm going to actually rename this one. I'm going to call this one title line art. Oh, yep, hit OK. And I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this one title. So I'm keeping my things all separated. My title is a certain part of my project here, and my character is going to be another part. So I'm going to start off with the title line art, actually. And for this, I'm using a drawing tablet because well, some people like to draw with the mouse, which is fine. Some people prefer a pen or pencil, and that's good too. And I've got display tablets, and I've got regular drawing tablets. I'm using a regular drawing tablet, which is just basically a black tablet that I draw on, and I'm looking at the screen to create my art. Display tablets are bigger displays, and it takes a little bit more time to hook up to your computer. And sometimes when you hook them up, you might end up having to restart your computer so that it recognizes that you have a display tablet attached to it. So this is kind of a quick and easy way. I like to use the regular drawing tablet for this reason, and I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I've got my first frame selected here. Notice that when I created these layers, it puts what's called a blank keyframe there, which means it's ready. It's already opened up, like all these frames, according to how long my flipbook is. So my flipbook in this whole animation is about 6 seconds long, and so my frames that I've created here, these layers, are also set up automatically to 6 seconds. And I've got blank keyframes here, which means it's basically ready for me to create some artwork on it. So now that I've got this, what I'm going to start to do is choose my brush, and your line art can be whatever color you want it to be. I'm just trying to make mine match the artwork that I have here, so I'm just going to be using black. So I've got a regular classic brush tool, or you can press B on your keyboard, and I'm going to choose a fill color because this tool, I can choose it over here as well. This tool is a brush tool that applies a fill, so it's not a stroke. There's a difference that we'll get into later if you're not familiar with that concept. I can resize it here, which is kind of nice. When I slide it back and forth here, I can see how large my brush is going to be. And with a drawing tablet, it's based on how hard you press. So if I press lightly, it's going to give me small lines. If I press hard, it's going to give me a wide line. And so this is showing me how wide the max line is going to be. So I'm going to Control Z to undo anything that I don't want. And I'm going to start to create my art here, except what I'm going to do is zoom in. So I'm doing Control plus to zoom in. And I'm going to get up close to my words here. I find it easier to create artwork with. Now the problem is, as I'm doing this, I'm like, well, this is okay, but I find it kind of difficult to see what's exactly underneath my artwork. So here's what I'm going to do. With my mouse, I'm going to double click on this guy where it says Flipbook. And when I do that, I'm going to change the opacity right here for visibility. I'm going to change the opacity to 50%. Hit OK. So that kind of creates kind of a base layer where I can see, or it kind of fades out that background layer so that I can actually see more clearly the things that I'm drawing on over the frame, whatever it is I'm reanimating. So now that this is auto saving for me, I'm going to wait for this to stop. There we go. Another thing I want to do is make sure I don't accidentally draw on the wrong layer. And so notice that when I change this to 50%, it gives me this kind of icon right here. Means that I've kind of changed the properties of that. And I'm also going to hit this lock button right here. Make sure I don't accidentally choose this layer to draw on. I'm going to do the same thing for this group up here too. If I just do it for the whole character group, it's going to do it. It's going to lock everything underneath it. So right now all I want to deal with is just this title line. And so I've got this right here I'm going to start drawing with. And so I'm going to use my brush again. And I'm going to continue on this same layer to draw and complete my my title. So I'm going to add this in here. And this is a good chance, a good thing about reanimating something is that you can change up the style and how you want something to look. And so you can alter this, you can make it look how you want. Maybe you weren't too happy with your style from the flipbook. This is your chance to change that up. And I'm just going to retrace over things. Now, I've got some small type down here, so what I might do is change the size of my tool. I'll make it a lot smaller. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to kind of add my own type. Ooh, that's kind of rough. I'm drawing with the tablet. It's been a minute since I've picked one up lately. Can be a little frustrating. Now, some good things about this particular tool is that I've got a smoothing all the way on to 100%, which means it's going to try to help my messy handwriting look a little bit better. Notice I'm not going to be too concerned with how exactly my words are. because I don't know why. I just feel more comfortable doing it this way. And Mr. McFulton Smirts is something that one of my other classes have gifted me with, this nickname. So this is a McFulton Smirts production right there. Let's zoom out. And there we go. It's just a little subtitle down there at the bottom. Now, that is going to stay there throughout the whole animation, which is not that great. I don't really want that to happen. What I want to do is make sure it disappears here. And so, because this is where my actual animation is going to start with my character. So what I'm going to do is go to our insert frame and hold down, and I'm going to put a blank keyframe. So now it's going to go away. So it goes to that, and then it'll be ready for my actual animation to show up underneath it or over it. So this is my title. That's just the line art for my title. Pretty simple. Notice that it stays there because that's the only keyframe. It's going to stay there until there's a blank keyframe or until there's a new keyframe that pops up in its place. And so we'll get into some extras and things that you can add to that to make it a little bit catchy, a little bit more eye-catching. Now I'm going to look at my line art. I'm going to lock down my title, and I'm going to unlock my line art here, and I'm going to start with this, except I want to start here because this is where my character art is going to begin, is right here on this frame. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I want to enter a keyframe. So I'm going to hold down here and enter a keyframe right there. Now it's ready for me to create my art. So I'm going to go back to Tool. I'm going to change my size a little bit larger. And I'm going to start to draw in my artwork. And I'm just reanimating it. And so I wish that line was straighter. I can do that. I can do that with Animate and make my artwork a little bit straighter. Or I can readjust lines where I feel like it should be. So now what I need to do is add another frame. I need to move on to the next one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to this. I'm going to enter a blank keyframe, and it automatically advances me to the next frame, and it's ready for me to create new art on. Now if I hold click here, I have a few options. I can auto keyframe, frame, blank keyframe, and just regular keyframe. We're going to be using a lot of regular keyframe throughout this production. Oops. Control Z to undo anything that you don't want to happen. There we go. So I'm going to go back to this keyframe. I'm going to grab my brush, and I'm just dealing with line art. That's all it is I'm doing. So I'm going to start to trace my artwork. Now these pens, if you're dealing with one of these, they do have buttons on them, and so you have to be careful because sometimes you can accidentally press those buttons and you can pull up a menu like that. And that's kind of frustrating, it's kind of annoying, but you got to get used to working with these pens and holding them down lower. So I'm going to Control Z back out of that, and I'm going to trace this best I can. Now it is an animation. It's hand-drawn animation. So I'm not looking for perfect artwork here, but it should represent what it is you created with your flipbook. Now if you finish something, you're like, oh, I don't really like that, Control Z and redo it again. You'll notice that I do that quite a bit. I'm going to have my hand almost always on my keyboard, ready to Control Z and back out of something. Now if my artwork goes out beyond the stage, doesn't matter. No one's going to see it. Now that I'm right here, I want to enter another blank keyframe. I can go here and select blank keyframe again, or I can go here, right click, and go to insert blank keyframe, or I can convert to a blank keyframe and press F7. So let me try that. If I'm right here and I just finished my artwork on this frame, I hit F7, it automatically adds that next keyframe and lets me draw right away. So it's just less clicking. I can work with the hand on the keyboard, doing some commands and drawing with my other hand. So I'm just going to continue doing this until I get all of my line art completed. A little resizing of the nose here. I started noticing after I got my flipbook done that there's a lot of things that I could have done a little bit better. And so I'm going to start to make some of these changes and make some of these alterations in my new digital work here. Continue that on. And now that I'm ready for my next one, F7. And I'm going to continue with my artwork. And as exciting as this is, what I'm going to do is fast forward to a point where I've got all of my line art done, so you can see what the next step's going to be. So there we go, my first few frames reanimated, just dealing with line art. Again, your line art doesn't have to be black, it can be different color if you'd rather your line to be something else. That's just one way that you can customize this. Now I'm going to fast forward now to a point where I've got all my line art completed. You can see I'm going to have a lot more to do. So let's move on. Okay, so here I am. I've got my, no. All right. I've got my layer here, or all of my line art completed. There we go. If I don't want to see my flipbook at all, just want to see my line art, here's what I'm going to do. Click this little icon right here, makes it invisible. And one last thing, since this is basically just a guide, I'm going to set it as a guide because I don't want this to show up in a movie or my rendering of my progress. So I'm going to right click on it and go to properties. Oops, never mind. I'm going to right click on it and go up to where it's about halfway where it says guide. And this little guide shows up. Looks like a little T-square ruler. And so when I now preview this, I'm going to hit this test movie button. It's going to show me exactly what my line art looks like. And that's beautiful. What I want to do now is save my progress for this. This is a great progress and check. And what I'm going to do is go to File, Export, Export Video, Media. This little window pops up. I want to make sure that the span is set to entire movie. The format, change this to H.264. Preset can be default. The output, this is important. You want to make sure that you save this. Choose a folder. So I hit the little folder icon. And what I'm going to do is label it according to that. And I'm going to call this line art. And save. Make sure it's in the right folder. Save. When I go to export, it's going to open up a new program called Media Encoder. And this is supposed to happen. You just got to be patient, wait for it. This is where it's going to convert your files into the movie. So once I did that, there it goes. It says it's already done. I can check out where it's at. It should be saved to where you saved it to, where you chose. So I've got line art right here. If I double click on this, this is my movie file, and it opens up and shows me exactly what I wanted to render. Now, if you did not put your flipbook layer as a guide, your flipbook is going to show up behind your line art, which is something I don't want to see, something we don't want to see for your progress check. So make sure that that is done right. And that file right there is going to be what you turn in for kind of this first step in our Re-Animate progress. So that's it for now. We'll see you next time for the color.